Today, we are going to be talking about how you can help your clients prepare for the recession, should that happen, and kind of manage their mental issues, their mental gymnastics that are going on right now around the recession. Depending on who they are, they may be thinking about, putting their head in the sand and I'm just going to work really hard. Or they might be kind of the sky is falling and what am I going to do? And I don't know what to do with myself. This is going to impact me and maybe having that anxiety that isn't helpful. So what do we do to help them get more focused and to take some practical and hopefully fulfilling actions that can help them feel ready should something happen in this recession? So I just saw something yesterday that said 50% of people in the US are afraid that they're going to get fired by the end of 2022. So that is huge. You've got a large group of people out there who is very nervous that their job will be eliminated this year. Now, we know that that's not going to happen, right? I mean, that's a really big number. Even in past recessions, that has not been reached. So even if there is a recession, how do we know what's going to happen to us? Well, we don't really when it comes right down to it, but there are some things that we can do differently to, one, feel prepared, and two, be a little more knowledgeable about what is going on in our industry and what really matters. So we're going to talk about some of the, I got to do this right now to feel safe, because that's important. So what can our clients do to help themselves feel a little more safe right now? Then we're going to talk about what can they do to take care of themselves. And some of these overlap, which is nice. And then talk about what can they do to start looking towards the future. So we got 3 different phases, 5 different actions that we're going to talk about here today. So the first thing is start rebuilding relationships. This is nice because it helps us feel more stable and it's good for our mental health. Most mental health research I've seen recently talks about the benefits of having a community. And it's also beneficial for our career and should be needed for a job search. So let's start there. Who are those people in your network that already know, like, and trust you, that you want to stay in touch with, that you want to get back in touch with, who are comfortable, but yet, helpful professionally as well as personally? It doesn't all have to be about the professional, right? Depending on the client and what feels comfortable for them. We know that our best contacts, should we get laid off, are going to be people we've worked with before. Our colleagues, our supervisors, our vendors, suppliers, customers. Those are going to be the best relationships when a layoff happens. So we might want to start there if we're feeling very nervous and rebuild those relationships, put some effort into them, and make sure that we're doing the things that we said we would do, that we've got an open line of communication to those people business-wise. And on the personal side, that we're building those relationships, we might want for support that we might, think will be good career-wise and that are just fulfilling for us. So a long time ago, it feels like now on my radio show, Fawn Germer came on and she was talking about this idea where she had people set up regular meetings with people who were in their network that they wanted to reconnect with. And this was something people were doing at the beginning of the pandemic, right? I don't want to feel isolated. Start doing it now too. Other people are going to be feeling nervous. People aren't necessarily talking about it. Could be a great time just to reconnect with those people in your network. And it doesn't matter, you don't have to have a purpose for reconnecting with them. Just reconnecting, getting to know each other again. Where are they? What's going on with them? Or perhaps on the business side, it is going to be a little bit more pointed and maybe even talking about, hey, what do you see going on in our industry? What are some of the, things that you're watching? What are you reading? So that you can keep up together on what might be going on and what might be coming down should something happen. So that step can fill a few of those buckets. It makes us feel a little more safe. We've got these relationships. We've got these people who support us. It starts a launch for our job search should we need it because we're rebuilding those relationships. And it's also good for our self-care. So I like that one. It's an easy place to start, and people can start wherever it fits best for them. Personal, rekindling, getting back into the community activities that they were doing, or professional, whether that's larger at their organization, at their professional association, or with those individuals that they know. And we can adjust that for people's personality, right? Whether it's go to events and kind of get that extroversion energy back, or do some one-on-one phone calls, whatever, with people to rekindle those relationships. So that's the first step that I would recommend people take. Now, along with that is making sure you have access to those people if you got laid off tomorrow. So do you have your personal email in LinkedIn and not your company email? Do you have connections on LinkedIn with the people that you want to stay in touch with? It may not be appropriate for you to reach out to their email the day after you get laid off. May or may not be. You'll have to decide. But you can do that through LinkedIn if you're connected with them on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever your community hangs out. So do you have access to the accounts you need? Make sure those are your personal email, not your business email. And do you have access to the people that you want to stay in touch with should something happen? And this is a step that, again, can help people feel more secure. Hey, if something happens tomorrow, I've got this set up and this ready to go. A less sexy step, but very necessary, is the financial piece of it. And we're career services providers. We aren't financial advisors. However, we can remind people to start thinking about that financial piece of it. What does their savings look like? What does a good amount of savings look like for them? Or how else do they manage emergencies? Do they have the opportunity to borrow from their 401k if they don't want to do credit cards? Credit cards, that's what they should call them, right? So what are their plans financially? Again, that's going to calm some of that overwhelm and feeling of being unsure, to have that plan and to figure out what they want to do with that. We did a great session with Linda McDowell on our Clubhouse room a few weeks ago, and those recordings are saved. They're an audio recording. So I'll drop the link for that in here on finances. And she talks about all the different creative ways that you can get access to financial support if you don't want to use credit cards. So you might not want to use that, or you may not be able to, borrow for your 401k, which is one of the options that she brought up. But there are other ways that people can get that kind of working capital, if you will, if something happens. And you've got all the other logistics of health insurance. Depending on your client's personality, having some of those things like planned out and ready to go, or having someone else in their life that is doing that, can be very helpful, so that that's not adding to their mental load. So we've talked about people, making sure you've got access to those people. We've talked about taking care of your logins and making sure you've got access to all of that. And then really planning for that financial piece. How are you going to be set up financially if this if this transition happens? So I see some of you there. Hello, let me know where you're joining me from. It's good to see you. And if you have other tips that you're sharing with clients to kind of prepare for if a recession is announced, or if they're nervous about getting laid off, that's always an important conversation to have. And I look forward to sharing your tips as well. So the next one is to see what is really going on in their industry. So this circles back to the first part. Hello, thanks for joining. Thanks for saying hello from Boston. Good to see you. And this circles back to that first point of the people, and how can your network help you have a reality line, right? A lifeline to reality around your industry and what's going on in your industry, or the industries that you want to change into. So a lot of people right now are thinking about that career change, right? They're thinking about making an industry change. This industry is not doing so well. I want to get into another one, whatever it might be, or that, kind of looking for something that's more meaningful, or work-life balance. So they might want to pay attention to their current industry, so they have a little bit of forewarning if things are going on. They also might want to start getting tapped into that new industry that they're interested in. So are there people that could help them get into that, introductions that their current network could make? are there professional associations in their current industry or in that new industry that could help them get connected? And so, for those of you that don't know yet, we're having a class tomorrow on career change resumes. If you are helping clients, we've got a whole bunch of information around industry change and examples of people changing from healthcare to IT, hospital or hospitality, all those industries that we know some people are leaving. Where are they going? What are they doing? And what do those samples look like? We've got a ton of examples we'll be sharing, as well as some tips. And Lori Jazvac and I are doing that. So if you want to jump on and share with us, I think that's the most common transition that I'm seeing right now is people wanting to make some kind of industry transition. And if they're thinking about doing that, starting their networking now, make them feel more secure, get their networking going, and feel like they're getting some movement going. Oh, we've got our person from Boston, Pennsylvania, Virginia. Thank you, Dahlia. Good to see you. And Norma from Puerto Rico. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you. So as people are thinking about that job change, oftentimes it also brings up this idea of what do I want to do with my life, right? What do I want to do next? And so this is something they can start working on now too. What does that focus look like? What industries do you want to focus on? What types of roles do you want to focus on? To me, the what and the where are critical. And then we can start to look at some of the, who do you want to work with? Why? What are those motivations? That culture that's really going to draw you in, so that we can have those data pieces ready when they need to start job searching, or when they want to start job searching, if they want to start job searching, even if they're not laid off. So as they're thinking about that research, I've also found that that's really uplifting for people, just to think about all of these opportunities that exist. And the new neighborhood that we moved into, there's like a little bunny in every yard. Obviously no predators in my neighborhood. So we got these little tiny bunnies in every yard. And my dog thinks that this is the best thing ever in the morning. We go on a walk, and every yard he's, oh, do you see a bunny? Do you see a bunny? And he sees a bunny in every yard, whether or not there's actually a bunny in every yard, right? And this has just been kind of making me laugh, because that is the idea of seeing an opportunity everywhere, right? He sees bunnies everywhere. And when our clients start to do that research and think about where they want to go and the opportunities, the possibilities, they get that energy that energy of, oh, there's opportunity for me around. There are things that I can do. And we can help them kind of build that positive energy to counteract some of the negative energy that they might be feeling or hearing when they start to research what the possibilities might look like, and what companies, what industries, what roles, how can they start to put together some ideas of where they might want to move next. And then, of course, they can kind of guide that networking effort. I would start with a networking where they are, just start building those relationships, even as they're exploring or figuring out what that focus of the next step might look like. And then they can kind of transition that networking towards that new focus when they're ready. Especially if they're currently employed, they might not want to start networking towards that new thing right away or talking about it too much. So they've built their network like they're kind of going to stay where they are. And then they start to transition it and have those conversations a little bit differently as they're ready to start talking about that transition towards whatever that new thing is that they want to do. Hi, Arthur. Good to see you. Thanks for saying hello. So as they're starting to figure out that focus, and that in our world, we call that personal branding, that idea of you really understanding who you are, what you want to be known for, and how you're going to carry who you are through to that next thing, because that's how you stay marketable and portable, is to understand who you are and then to be able to translate it into that new industry. And so we do have our personal branding class coming up, starting at the end of August as well. So Susan Critton teaches that. It's amazing. It help you get clarity on your brand, and then also get a process to help clients get clarity on theirs. But this is that challenge of getting that focus, understanding how to then kind of retarget it, reposition it towards their target audience, because we can't build a brand in a vacuum, right? You're what you are, who you are, the stories of what you've done all need to be connected to that target audience that you want to connect with, or they just fall flat. They don't work. As clients get that focus and they start to kind of build those stories that we can help them start, then they get even more confidence, right? They start to figure out that, hey, I can do this, and they can start to build that visibility. So here's one of the things that I see people doing is maybe going to that build the visibility step too soon. Let's work on the network that you already have, because those people are going to be your cheering section when you start to try to build your visibility. Otherwise, you might hear crickets. So let's start those conversations with the people we already know, comments, etc., to build that relationship first, or build it back. Then make sure we're really focused on what do we want to be known for and who do we want to know us. Because then when you start to build that visibility, it's going to be more purposeful, it's going to be stronger, it's going to catch faster with the audience that we want to catch, instead of just maybe even catching the wrong audience if we haven't thought about what industry we might want to transition to or what we really want to be known for. We might get out there and start building visibility in the wrong direction. Not the worst thing, but if we have the time, starting with some of those foundational steps first builds our confidence, builds our cheering section before we start building that visibility, so that everything is just a little bit easier, especially when it's something that people haven't done before. So our steps there were to start with the relationships you already have, the warm contacts, rekindle those, connect with people, make sure that you've got access to them outside of your job. LinkedIn is your personal login, that you've connected to them on whatever platforms make sense. Make sure you've got your finances set, that you are clear and have a process, have a plan, have some options. If you were laid off tomorrow, what would you do financially? You may not have time to build up a savings if you haven't done that in the last few months, right? Lots of people haven't. Inflation's rough. So what are your options if you got laid off tomorrow financially? How would you handle that? And then we talked about getting in touch with that industry, staying abreast, knowing what's going on in your target industry, your current industry, whatever that is, and how your network can help you there. And then lastly, once you've got that focus for your next step and know what you want to be known for and who needs to know you, then you start building your visibility, so that you can transition easier if you need to. So hopefully those steps can be helpful for your clients. I'd love to hear anything else. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop that down here, the replay, and any thoughts that you have, other things that you tell your clients. And if you're interested in writing resumes and profiles, you can join us tomorrow, or you can get the recording either available at this link. And that session with all the handouts and samples with Lori and I, and then coming up at the end of August with Susan Critton, our certified personal branding strategist, where you can have a process to clarify the brand for yourself and for your clients. And if you have any other topics or things that are coming up that you see your clients struggling with, feel free to send them my way. Happy to address those here on a Tuesday Live, or to have you on as my guest if you'd like to chat with me here on this platform. We'll see you next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.